Hey everyone! You're going to be learning a little more about me, Gifted Guzman, up next on Gifted Guzman. Hello and welcome to my channel. I wanted to do this video to let you guys know who I am and why you should be listening to me. I mean, not that I'm saying you should be listening to me, but you should be listening to me. I know things. I wanted to share some of my expertise on teaching, but I thought if I was out there looking at YouTube videos, I might not know if I wanted to listen to this person's expertise if I didn't know who they were or where they came from or where their expertise comes from. So I thought I would share a little bit about myself with you all so that you can get to know me and get to see kind of who I am as a person a little bit and more as an educator and where I've come from. Well, as you can tell, I'm no spring chicken. I'm actually 46 years old, and teaching is not the first job that I've had. I've actually had other careers and other jobs before this, so I'd like to talk about my work experience first because that in itself gives me kind of a unique view on the world. I worked in different science labs when I was in my 20s. At first, I worked in an infectious disease lab at the University of Texas Health Science Center, and I actually worked on the HPV vaccination. And then I worked in a biochemistry lab at Southwest Research. And after a while of that, I became disillusioned with science, and especially with pay for science and science for profit. So I ended up taking my leave from the science community and moved on to other, hodgepodge jobs. I worked, with vending machines and helping manage the office for the money and all kinds of strange stuff. Then I landed at USAA and I worked in their health claims department. And because I had a science background, I understood this terminology and I was able to work on the claims quickly and turn around and contact doctors if there were problems. So I worked at that for a little while. And then I ended up moving over to Citibank, which is where my spouse works, and worked with him in the technical department and learned computers and helped people in the private banking industry who have high dollar accounts and help their secretaries and stuff to get them on online and do things of that nature. So I bobbed around and wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and I was kind of a gypsy. And then my father passed away from cancer. He had esophageal cancer that spread, and he passed away from that in a little less than 2 years' time. My father was a teacher, an art teacher, and I looked up to him so much when I was growing up. But he always told me, don't be a teacher, don't be a teacher, it'll break your heart. And I wanted to be a teacher, and I didn't realize it until he passed. And then when he passed away, I thought, he's not here to discourage me, and I think he would actually be proud of me. And so I took the money that he left to me and I went and got my education as a teacher. Whew, so that little bit had me choked up a little bit, but it moves me into the segment on education. I had gotten my associate's degree from a small community college called Palo Alto here in San Antonio, Texas. I'm from San Antonio, Texas, when my sons were babies, and that was the degree that I used in order to work in the science labs. And then when my dad passed away, I went to Texas A&M here in San Antonio and got my bachelor's degree in interdisciplinary studies, which is what they called a bachelor's of teaching. So I actually went to school for teaching. So I learned classroom management skills, I did my student teaching, I did my observation hours. So I did all of that in order to get a bachelor's. And then I received a really great opportunity. I was able to get a grant and go to a private university called Our Lady of the Lake University here again in San Antonio. And I got my master's in curriculum instruction and in science. So it is more heavily in science. Although that is not the only thing that I teach, nor is that the only thing that I'm capable of teaching, because I have several certifications. I'm actually certified EC through 6, all level, 4 through 8, all subject, 4 through 8 science, 7 through 12 science. I have my ESL certification. So I am highly certified. I do have my master's degree. So as far as education goes, I know what I'm talking about. And I have 3 sons, and I've been through their education process because my sons are all grown-ups now. My oldest son is going to be 28, and my middle son is going to be 24, and my youngest son is going to be 23. So I've gone through the processes with them as well. So that's a little bit about my education. So wow, now I've been like super educated. That's really great and awesome, but what's my experience in the classroom, right? Because you can have all the education in the world but not have any experience and not know what's going on. This is going to be the end of my 9th year teaching, this whole strange distance learning thing. I'm ending my 9th year teaching that way. My first 2 years teaching, when I actually got my bachelor's degree, there was a hiring freeze in Texas for teachers, and I applied at 18 different districts all over Texas, like 2 hours drive away from San Antonio, to try to find a job. And I finally found a job at a charter school. So for my first 2 years, I was the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade science teacher. Then, because they had failed their scores across the board, all grade levels, everything, we had to really help the students with math. So I got the 8th grade students after lunch, and I retaught them 7th grade math in the standards that would help them to move into 8th grade math, so that then they could be successful in 8th grade math. And then after that, I taught art to the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade girls. I also was in charge of the science fair for pre-K all the way through 8th grade, because it was pre-K through 8th grade. And so I had to coordinate that and get that set up and set that evening up. So my first year, the school was in trouble, had some problems. My scores ended up being great. And lo and behold, the administration fired everybody in the middle school except for me, and made me the lead of the middle school and got all new teachers. So we all worked together, and it was really great, but I was only making $32,000 a year, and job openings started to become available in a large district in my area. So I went and applied, and I was accepted, and I did go back to my charter school because I loved them and I loved the kids, and I asked them if they could just at least meet me halfway, because moving to the big district was going to double my salary, and I still had children at home. So it was something that I needed to take into consideration. And they wouldn't bump it up just a little bit. They said it wasn't true that I was going to get paid, but I was going to get paid, but I did. So I moved to the bigger district, and from there I taught strictly just 7th grade science. So it was like, whew, it went from trial by fire to just 7th grade science, which was a cakewalk for me. So I've taught everything in 7th grade science. I taught the GT kids, I taught the pre-AP kids, I taught the gen ed kids, I taught the spec ed kids, I taught the English as a second language kids, everybody. It was a Title I campus. So I had just a range of kids of all kinds of levels and needs and everything. I also started a club out there, an environmental club, won a grant from the basketball team here in San Antonio called the San Antonio Spurs, and we created an outdoor habitat, and I got the kids involved and took the kids out to the Spurs and got them to meet people, and they helped with the grant money and planned all of that out. And we had an environmental fair out at the school where people got to learn about, you know, home gardening and bees and invasive species and all kinds of stuff. So had a really great time. I was also the journalism sponsor over there, and so I created an online newspaper with the students and the yearbook with the students. So I did that for two of the 3 years. So I did that 4 years. I was there for 4 years actually. So I did it 2 of the 4 years. Then I've always wanted to be the GT specialist. I grew up and I was gifted and talented, and one of my sons is gifted and talented and twice exceptional, and another of my sons is gifted and talented, and the third one is advanced academically but not gifted and talented. But I felt like I understood that group of students better, and I thought I could better serve them. So I looked around, and there happened to be 12 gifted and talented specialist positions available in my district 3 years ago, and so I applied for almost all 12 of them, got interviewed for several, got picked for a couple, and then chose this school that I'm at now. So for the past 3 years, I've been the gifted and talented specialist at my campus, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So I have to coordinate all the paperwork, I have to do testing for the campus, I have to do all that administrative stuff that's boring and you don't want to hear about it. But on the teacher side, I still teach science, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I've also taught 7th grade Texas history to gifted and talented students, and 6th, 7th, and 8th grade English language arts. So I have had quite the spectrum of teaching experience in just a short amount of time. And I have a lot of ideas, and I have ideas from my workplace, from being in a technologically driven workplace like Citibank, and from being in a science lab, so I know where that all comes from. So I have a wealth of knowledge to offer to the students, and I have a wealth of knowledge, I think, to offer to you from things that I've learned over the course of what I've been doing. So I would like to go ahead and get back on my channel and start posting some videos more often, and I hope you guys will join me. as I go through this journey, and I hope that you'll learn some things and that I help you out in your journey as an educator. All right? Thank you so much for stopping by.